The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. It's John Morrow here. We have Ryan Levesque with us today. How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing really good, my friend, and I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. So, just to frame this for everyone while everyone is getting settled, Ryan is the go-to guy for figuring out your audience and what they want. And the reason why I invited him here today is, so many of you are thinking about creating products, whether it's ebooks or courses or whether you're doing coaching or whatever it is, you're probably wondering, what is it exactly that I should be offering? What should I be selling? And you probably have this worry in the pit of your stomach where you're not really sure whether you're on track or not. And you may be worried about investing months or years into a product that nobody wants to buy. And I have to tell you, it's a very real possibility. Just too many times I've seen students creating products and then they find out that nobody wants it. And they realize they just wasted 6 months of their life. And the reason why I invited Ryan here today is I don't want that to happen to you. That I want you to learn how to understand your audience, how to not only build it, to build it up, but also to understand exactly what they're looking for. Because whether you're doing blogging or anything else, the person who understands their audience the best is the one that wins. And right now, I think Ryan is the best methodology. Just to look at the numbers that he's showing you here, and I think you're going to learn a ton about exactly how to get into their heads and really build up your own product catalog for this. Okay? So, you ready to take it away, Ryan?
I'm ready to rock, my friend. I'm really excited. We've got so much good stuff, and I'm ready to dive right in. Shall we go to it?
Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, John, for the super kind intro. I really appreciate that. And before we dive right in, I'm just going to ask to make sure that you can hear me okay and that you can see my screen okay. And I want to make sure, can you just, in the GoToWebinar chat, if you would just do me a favor and just say, Ryan, you sound loud and clear, and I can see your screen. And you should see John's handsome smiling face and my goofy face to the left of him. If you could just do me a favor, let me know in the chat. And awesome. Awesome. Hey, Zara. And yes, hey, Jan, Angela, Angie, Kate, Martin, Barbara. Awesome. Catherine, Dara, Franco, Jenny, John, Lara, Jack, Rob, Mike, Sky, Jason, Alan, Mike. I can't keep up with all the names. Sherry, Boris. We're going to max out, by the way. There's a good chance we might max out the occupancy, the attendees on this. So if you're in, be sure to stay in and don't pop out, because I'd hate for you to lose your spot. Kendra, Chanley, Elizabeth, Lily, Lucy, Tracy, gosh, I can't even, Ray, JJ, Kimberly, Melissa, Ann, Ellen, Sardek, Gordon, Zara, Brent, Renee, awesome, Luke, Laura, Merrick. So I want to tell you about the weird, quote unquote, ask formula, a formula that we've used to generate over 3 million subscribers. These are email subscribers, 200,000 customers across 23 different niche markets, and I'm going to show you what some of these markets are, and over $100 million in online revenue. Are you excited to dive right in? Because I'm really excited to start. Now, before we dive right in, I want to take a moment just to answer a question that I personally always have whenever I'm attending an online training presentation, and that question is this for me? Is this something I'm going to be able to use in my business where I'm at right now? So I just want to take a moment to answer that question to help you decide if this is something that you'll be able to use in your business. So who is this for? If you're considering launching a new blog, a new business, a new product, or you're thinking about kicking off a new project, or if you have an existing blog or website and you've struggled to grow your subscriber base, or if you're looking to make a living selling courses and ebooks online and you're looking for a framework and a path to get there, or if you simply want a proven, evergreen, what we call sales funnel, something that you can build once and then set it and forget it, to consistently generate subscribers and customers for you, or if you have clients in any of those situations that you might be working with right now, either as a freelancer or that you have worked with in the past, what I'm going to do today is walk you through what I consider to be the holy grail of online marketing, which is how to convert cold blog traffic or website traffic into customers. Now, I get it. This sounds great, right? But the question is, all right, well, how are you going to do this? Well, the way you're going to do this is with this right here. Now, what you see in front of you here is the exact process laid out that we use to go into market after market and generate all the results that you've heard me talk about and walk through all the case studies that I'm going to show you here in just a moment. Now, before we dive right in, I do want to mention this. Because our time is extremely limited today, and because what I want to do is give you actionable information that you can, by the way, if you don't have a pen and notebook out, or you don't have your screen capture software ready, or you don't have your Evernote set up to take notes on this, I strongly advise you that you do that right now. Just hit the pause button, do that right now, because we're going to be going through some stuff. You're going to hear me accelerate the pace of what we're going to talk about. I'm going to speak fast, and I want to cover as much as possible. Specifically, I want to give you things that you can actionably use in your life, in your business right here today. And for that reason, I want to go deep in a few of the highest leverage areas of this process, which you can see in these 3 red boxes. Now, before we go forward, whenever I've done this training presentation in the past, and I've gotten to this point, I've always gotten people who say, well, wait a second, I didn't get a chance to catch the entire flow chart. So here's what I want to do. If you would like a free copy of this flow chart, do me a favor. In the chat right now, type in, yes, I want the flow chart. Ryan, yes, give me the flow chart. Yes, I want it. Something to let me know that you're excited, that you want to get this flow chart. And here's what we're going to do. At the end of this presentation, if enough people right now respond, I will make a way available for you to get access to this flow chart for free. And this will be a high resolution version of it. I've had people who actually print this up at Kinko's, put it up on their wall. They use this as their exact framework when it comes to figuring out what their customers want and building their online business. And so if that's something that you would like, let me know in the chat, and we shall go from there. All right, awesome. John, I do have to say, you might have the most awesome audience of any that I've had the opportunity to share this information with, because I'm telling you, Norman, Terry, Elizabeth, Lisa, Cyprian, Kara, Hen, Tina, Kevin, Hunter, Greg, Alan, Mike, Becky, Michael, Jack, Melissa, Mike, Merrick, Ed, Terry, gosh, I can't even keep up, Jim, Cindy, Sandy, Daisy, Allison, Andrew, Marjorie, Pam, JC, Andrew, I can't even keep up. They were like, yes, I want the flow chart. Yes, awesome, awesome, John, Christy. I'm so pumped. I'm so excited today. Let's dive in. All right, this is exciting. Remind me at the end if I forget. Okay, so we talked about the holy grail of online marketing is figuring out what your customers want and how to transform cold blog traffic into customers and do it consistently. Well, the question is, how do you do this? Well, the way you do this is you ask them what they want. Now, show of hands, who's familiar with this book here? This is a book that we just launched recently. It became a worldwide #1 bestseller overnight. Completely dark horse, unexpected. Nobody thought this book would become a bestseller, and out of nowhere, became the #1 bestselling book in America as soon as it was released on Amazon, according to USA Today, according to Nielsen, according to Barnes & Noble, and many lists are still reporting right now as we speak. And the premise of the book is what I want to talk about in today's training presentation, which is the secret to being successful in business, whether it's online or offline, is to find out what your customers want and give it to them. And the secret here is to ask people what they want. But the trick is that you cannot directly ask people what they want. You have to do it in a sort of counterintuitive, indirect way. And the reason why is because People don't know what they want. In fact, whenever I bring this idea up of asking people what they want, inevitably someone brings up a quote, a famous quote that's attributed to Henry Ford. And the quote reads, "If I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have told me faster horses." And more recently, Steve Jobs has been quoted as saying, and I'm going to paraphrase, "Focus groups are worthless. People don't know what they want until they see it." Now, the reason why those two quotes ring true for so many of us is because they are true. You cannot directly ask people what they want. Now, with that being said, I want to set the stage for what we're going to be talking about today by revealing two types of information, the only two types of information that people can accurately give you an answer to, which matches up with both what they think and what is reality. So you ready? And these are two things that you're going to want to write down. So this is first, if you have a pen and paper ready, this is what you want to write down. The first type of information that people can accurately answer when you ask them the question is related to past behavior. So if I ask, John or anyone on this call, if I said, "Hey, what did you have for dinner last night?" Unless you're being smart or you have retrograde amnesia, chances are, or you've got, like me, 2 young kids and sleep very few hours every single night. Unless you're in one of those situations, generally speaking, you will know what you had for dinner last night. So you can ask people questions about their past behavior and get very accurate answers. And you'll see why this is valuable in just a moment. The second type of information that you can ask people and get an accurate answer isn't what people want, but what they don't want. If I ask you, tell me, what's a perfect day for you? What happens is your brain starts to invent truth, which may or may not be reality. You start thinking in that direction. But if I ask you, what was the single biggest frustration you had in whatever it is you were working on yesterday? You can very accurately answer that question. What is the single biggest thing that you don't like about your daily routine or your weekly routine or your weekly chores that you have to do at home? We're very good at identifying what it is that we don't want. In fact, if we go back to this Henry Ford quote for just a moment, if Ford, instead of asking what people wanted, if he would have flipped the script and asked people what they didn't like about riding horses, he would have gotten all sorts of useful information. Things like, I don't like the fact that horses are slow. I don't like the fact that when I'm riding a horse and the weather is rainy outside, I get wet. I don't like the fact that I need to stop to let my horse rest or go to the bathroom. I don't like the fact that I can only fit one person on my horse. I don't like the fact that when my horse is old, he gets slower and I need to replace him. And the list would go on and on and on. And the reason why I bring up this idea of knowing what questions to ask, the right questions at the right time to the right people, is because whenever I bring up this concept of asking questions and using surveys in marketing, people tend to say, well, I've used surveys and I haven't gotten these type of results. I haven't generated $100 million in online sales in 23 different markets, generating upwards of 52,000 subscribers every single day. And the reason for that is simple. The reason is because most marketers use surveys wrong. Now, with that context, I want to start diving into some immediately actionable information that you can start applying in your business right away. But there's one last thing that I want to do before we do that, and that's answer the second question that I'm always asking myself whenever I attend an online training presentation, which is, should I pay attention to the person delivering this training? So I want to take just 30 seconds to tell you who I am. My name, again, is Ryan Levesque, and people know me as the funnel specialist. And funnel in this context is related to sales funnels or online marketing funnels. Now, by funnel specialist, what we mean is, again, 3 million leads, 200,000 customers, 23 markets, and over $100 million in online revenue. The Businesses that I partner with and have led into certain positions include the #1 golf instruction site in the world, the #1 tennis instruction site in the world, the #2 satellite TV provider in the United States, the #3 business funding provider in the United States. And by the way, these are all companies that you would be familiar with. The #1 alkaline health company in Australia and the UK, the #1 dog training property in the world, one of the top 3 fitness instruction companies in the world. This is a company that you've seen their infomercials before. One of the top skincare product companies in the world, a top 10 weight loss supplement in the world, and the list goes on and on and on. And markets range everything from offline dentistry to online jewelry making, ebooks and tutorials, to instructional courses, as you'll see, in places like how to improve your memory. Now, with that being said, just to give you a sense for the value in the type of information you're about to get your hands on in just a moment, the way that my company works, generally speaking, is companies pay my team and I a high upfront fee to design one of the funnels that I'm about to show you how to do, plus pay an ongoing royalty that in many cases is thousands and sometimes tens of thousands of dollars every single month based on the revenue that revenue source, that funnel generates. Now, in addition to our done-for-you work, I also have a high-level consulting practice, which consists of 20 high-level CEOs who work with me privately. There are 20 people in this group who pay $5,000 a month, and this group has been full for the last 18 months, and there's a wait list of over 100 people waiting to get access to this program. And the reason why all of this is true is simple. It's because the stuff you're about to see works. Now, what you see in front of you here is a screenshot, one survey funnel in one market in which we have multiple survey funnels, which generated just under $9 million in revenue last year and $6 million in profit. Another example, this is a market which we've scaled up, and we're generating upwards of 14,000 subscribers every single day in this one market. Now, you can see the before and after. This is a market that before we were generating about 1,500 subscribers every single day, which is a great number. And I know many people on this call would say, I'd love to generate 1,500 subscribers every single day. But when you consider how we were able to scale that from 1,500 to 14,000, you can see the tremendous opportunity that's available. And if you think about that in terms of your business, if you're generating 10 subscribers a day, imagine how your life would change if you were able to see this type of before and after picture. Now, I know when people see these numbers, there's a tendency to think, well, I'm not a big business. I don't have a 7- or 8-figure business. I'm just a single business owner. I'm thinking about starting my first business. How does this apply to me? Well, I want to let you know that this applies to small businesses as well. So here's an example of another market. This is a market where we use ClickBank, which is a clearinghouse, an affiliate platform for selling predominantly information products. So if you have any interest in selling ebooks or courses and monetizing your expertise, this is a great starting point to do that. This is a business in which we generated $125,000 last year. And in the first month of 2015, and I need to update this slide, we'd already generated $28,000 in revenue, which means that we're basically 3xing, tripling the size of this business this year. Now, if you're wondering, okay, this is great, but these are all existing businesses. What about me? I don't have a business yet. I don't have these kinds of numbers. What if I'm starting from scratch? Well, I want to show you that what you're about to see also applies to new businesses, new blogs, new websites as well. This is a brand new market that we entered into. This is a pet market, a brand new business that we started that within 12 months, we went from absolutely nothing, no website, no blog, no presence, no experience, no prior any connections in this market at all, to go from nothing to, as you can see here, 6 figures within 12 months. And you can see the blue numbers, we're generating 3,000 subscribers every single month. And this is a tiny little pet market where it's a little hobby market that you would never know we're doing these types of numbers. Now, what's interesting about all of this, these are great examples. is that most people get into the world of consulting or teaching or training other people as a stepping stone to launch their own business. And one of the things that I'm always looking for when I'm trying to decide, should I pay attention to someone, is has this person made money successfully doing what they actually teach? And here's the important part, outside of the how to make money space. In other words, have they successfully implemented whatever methodology that they're teaching above and beyond just teaching people how to make money? There's that old adage, and I don't believe in this completely, but it's that those who cannot do, teach. And this bothers me because as someone who both does and teaches, what I want to show you in just a moment here is the fact that what you're about to see is something that I used in my life to go from dead broke, starting from nothing, to where we are today. So now, you may or may not have seen the Business Insider article that came out recently about how we grew our business, how my wife and I grew our home business from nothing to $5 million a year, basically starting from scratch. And on the left-hand side, you can see when we first got started in 2008. First month, we generated $370 in sales. And within 18 months, we had grown our business to $24,275 in just 18 months. And that was the first market that we entered. And from then, we entered the second market, and then market after market after market. And you can see where we are today, breaking $5 million and on the fast track to breaking 8 figures. Now, whether or not your goal is to have a multi-million-dollar business or simply to have a lifestyle business where you and to support you and your family, where you can work from home and make a good income, what I wanted to do here is give you, again, I'm doing this not to give myself an ego boost about any of this. What I'm doing here is I want to give you the confidence that what you are about to get access to is something that's been tested across multiple markets. It's been tested across multiple traffic sources. It's been used to sell everything from dentistry to ebooks to online courses to consulting services to weight loss supplements and pills to books, all the way to business funding and high-end water filtration systems and even satellite TV. In other words, it doesn't matter what you're looking to sell. It doesn't matter how you generate traffic, whether that's through SEO, whether that's through Facebook, whether it's through any social media platform, or even paid advertising, that there's a place for this in your business. Now, with that being said, and this is just a few comments from people on my site, you can see the type of results that people are getting using this. Now, with that being said, I do want to mention one last thing, and we're going to dive right into the good stuff, and that's this. Simplicity is powerful, okay? Show of hands, and I'd be curious because I'm guilty of this, what I'm about to say myself, in the chat. Have you ever felt that you've been victim of shiny object syndrome, where you get a dozen emails every single day and there's this new Facebook arbitrage opportunity, or there's this brand new whiz-bang technology that you have to capitalize on, or Bitcoin is taking over the world and you have to change the way that you conduct business. And it's like our heads are pulled in a million different directions. Does that ring true? Do you ever feel that way? Well, the reason why I say simplicity is powerful is some of the stuff that we're about to talk about can feel deceptively simple. Like most things in life, the devil's in the details and the nuances matter. And just like the wheel, electricity, and some of the most powerful inventions and the most powerful concepts in history, sometimes the most simple is the most powerful. And so with that in mind, I want to take a brief sip of water and we're going to dive right in. And I would start by talking about the 3 biggest mistakes that I see with businesses, especially online businesses and people who are just getting started or recently started building their online website, their blog, whatever it may be. And the reason why is because as I go through these mistakes, I want you to kind of take notes and ask yourself, which of these mistakes might you be making in your business? And what I found is on average, most people are making 2 of these 3 mistakes. So think about which of these two mistakes you might be making in your business. Now, the first mistake that I see or problem is that the businesses that I work with, whether it's a blog or a website, tend to have traffic that's too broad. Okay, let me explain what I mean by that. So if your business is let's call it a local service provider, like a plumber, for example. If you're a local plumber, and say you're based in a city where I am, in Austin, Texas, and if anybody's from Austin, Texas, give a shout. Austin's not my home city, but as I like to say, when you marry a Texan, you move to Texas. And I've been happily married for going on 10 years now. So happily become a Texas transplant. So let's pretend for a moment that you are a local plumber in Austin, Texas. Now, if someone is searching for a business like yours and they go to Google and they type in the search query, local plumber, Austin, Texas, to fix leaky toilet, then it's pretty easy, right, to create a compelling advertisement or a compelling blog post or a compelling landing page that really speaks to someone in that situation, right? I mean, we could write the headline right here, right now together. The headline might say something like, in Austin, have a leaky toilet, looking for a plumber, call us today at 1-512, whatever. It's pretty easy, right? But the problem is, how many people every single month are searching on that specific search query? Maybe like 2, right? How many people are actually typing that in, the same thing every single month? Very few people. So the challenge when I say traffic is too broad is businesses tend to want to go after broader traffic. So if we were to go after a keyword with more traffic, maybe something like plumbing, how do you reach that type of person? Or what about home improvement? Or what about reaching someone who's on DIY.com through a banner advertisement? Or what about someone on Yahoo.com where there are millions of visitors every single day? You see, the challenge is you can't go after that type of broad traffic and generate a larger business than something that generates just a few subscribers every single month unless you use what we're going to be going through together. And I want to give you an example. So I have a business, and this is one that we're going to go through a few examples here in a moment as I show you some case studies. It's a business in which we help people improve their memory. Now, fun fact about Ryan. So I grew up very working class background. I'm the first person in my family ever to go to college. It was a big deal when I went to college. And I was fortunate enough not only to go to college, but get into an Ivy League school. And I graduated from Brown University, where I studied neuroscience, of all things, and East Asian studies. And so there was a period of time where I thought I was going to go into academia and become a neuroscientist. And the fascination I have with the brain and human psychology really stems from that experience. So after graduating, years after graduating, we decided that we wanted to start a business in the memory improvement space to leverage that Ivy League background in neuroscience. And so we started building a business. The business exists today. You'll see a website in just a moment. The name of the business is rocketmemory.com, if you want to check it out, rocketmemory.com. And we have a series of courses where we help people improve their memory. And when we first launched this business, I thought we were going to just crush it right out of the gate, right? This was the third market that we had gone into. We had already successfully entered the jewelry making market online, the gardening market online. We had nice blogs that were generating upwards of, as you saw, $25,000 a month. And we went into the memory market, and I thought, okay, this is going to be a slam dunk. And when we went into this market, I struggled. We struggled out of the gate. And the reason why was because all the traffic available in this market is centered around keywords like improve memory and how to improve memory and memory improvement. And the problem is that when you are trying to advertise or even write a blog post on a topic like improve memory, people searching on that keyword range from everyone from an 18-year-old college kid studying for a final exam in the library looking for test-taking tips, all the way through a 65-year-old man concerned about mental decline, and then everything in between. So the question is, how do you speak to all of those people, that entire spectrum of people who are all searching on that one singular keyword at the same time? The answer is you can't, unless you use what I'm about to show you. Now, the second problem that I see with the businesses that I work with is they don't know why people who visit their website who don't buy, they don't know why they don't buy. They don't know why their prospects, non-buyers, don't buy. And I'm going to ask a question. So, all right, let's go to the chat. Let's go to the GoToWebinar chat. I've got a fun question for us. I'm just curious. The question is this. When it comes to your cold website or blog traffic, what sales conversion rate is viewed as being acceptable or in the neighborhood of being good? So in other words, what percentage of website visitors should you expect to convert into customers? I'm just curious to know what number comes to mind. So if you have, 100 visitors who come to your website, how many of them are going to turn into customers? And in a percentage basis, what number does that look like? So what's the percentage? The sales conversion rate percentage, traffic, cold traffic to your website converting into customers. And I'm just going to take a look at some of the answers, and this will be a fun little game here. Okay, let's dive through. Okay, let's see. Awesome. Catherine saying Texas is where it's at. Go Austin. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Ralph says 5%, Dave says 2%, Hunter 2%, Donna 2%, John 2%, Ann 1%, Kevin 10%, Morgan 1%, Jan 1 to 3, Luke 10%, Cindy 1%, 10%, 5%. Wish I knew. It's a great question. 3%, 5 to 10, 3%, 10% would be nice. 25%, 20%, 2%, 0.5, 2, 5, 0.1, 0.1, 2, 2, 2 to 3, 10 to 20, 0.1. Gosh, I can't keep up again. 2%, 2%, 2%. No clue. 10%, 1 to 2, 2%. I've seen 2, 3, 3, 3, 2%. Still wondering. 100% after Ryan tells us his secret sauce. I wish. If it was 100%, Dave, I'll tell you what. I'd be on a yacht somewhere in the Caribbean, wearing sunglasses and drinking a tropical drink. As much as I'd love to be here. Would love 50 to 60%, 30%. Awesome. Great answers. Really great answers. It's a really great range. The answer is, generally speaking, 1%. Generally speaking, 1% means that you're in the neighborhood of making something work. Meaning, for every 100 people who visit your website, one of them converts into a customer. And that becomes increasingly true as you scale. So if you're in a tiny little niche market that's hyper-focused, you might be doing better than that. But chances are, when you scale to 10,000 visitors per day, that the conversion rate won't scale. Now, what that means is if you're doing 2%, you're doing pretty great. And if you're doing 5%, man, you're smoking it. And geez, I mean, if you're doing 10%, well, if you're doing 10%, 10% of every person, 10% of all traffic who comes to your website converts into a customer, well, you are on that yacht in the Caribbean enjoying that tropical drink right now. You're not on this training. You're having a really good time. But think about that for a moment. Think about that the other way. What that really means is that best case scenario, absolute best, 90 to 99% of all the traffic you send to your blog, all the traffic you send to your website is a waste. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, it's a waste of energy, it's a waste of effort. And the fact that this is the generally accepted number in our industry, it frustrates the heck out of me. And the reason is because the real secret to taking your business to the next level, taking your income to the next level, is knowing how to take that 90% and monetize a portion of it. And that's what I'm going to show you to do in just a moment. Now, the third problem that I see with the businesses that I work with is that they don't know what else to sell their customers. All right, we're going to go back to the chat. This one's going to be fun. And a quick question. So I'm going to say a sentence, and I want you to fill in the blank, complete the following sentence. I'm just curious to know how you would complete the following sentence. Now, when I say the money is in the blank, how do you complete that sentence? What comes to mind? The money is in the blank. And I'll go through some of the answers that come through. Money's in the blank, and I'll tell you what. We'll see if someone comes up with the answer that I'm thinking of here. Awesome. Okay, let's see. Go to the top. Awesome. Money's in the bank, list, bag, bank, bag, details, list, bank, pocket, list, clothes, bag, list, bank, 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 list, bag, relationships, follow-up, pocket, email list, list, bank, bag, bank, passive income, pocket, list, bank, upselling, best use of my time, loops, details, survey, pocket. There we go. Here we go. All right. First winner, ding, 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 is Victor. Victor got it. Victor's the only one that I've seen who's gotten it so far. A couple came close. The money is in the back end. How many of you have heard that before? And by the way, if you said list, the money is in the list is not that dissimilar from the money is in the back end. So what do I mean by that exactly? Most businesses tend to be so fixated on trying to sell whatever it is that they sell on the front end, the first thing that they are selling. Now, I quoted a study in our book, and it's an interesting study. There's a fast food company, a company that we all know. There's a fast food company that actually doesn't make any money when someone pulls into the drive-thru and tries to and orders a hamburger from the drive-thru. They don't make any money at all. Between the cost of food, labor, the advertising involved to get someone to the drive-thru, they don't make any money. But when they get that same person to also buy fries and a drink, and then come back the next day because they got hooked on the food and buy again, that is where they make their money. The money is in the back end. You see, so many businesses are fixated on selling that first thing that they forget that the real money isn't in the first thing that you sell your customers. The money is in the second and the third thing. And where people fall short and fall flat in their business is they don't have a way so that the first sale sets up the second sale, and the second sale sets up the third sale. If you've ever been to the most basic example of this, by the way, of strategically setting up the back end of your business and upselling people into different things, the most basic and one of the best and most elegant versions of this is if you've ever stepped inside a bar. If you've ever stepped inside a bar before, you step up to a bar and you sit down at the counter or sit down on the bar stool. What's the first thing that the bartender slides in front of you? The first thing. What comes to mind? I'm curious. Serious, in the chat, I'm curious. What's the first thing that the bartender? It's been a long time since I've been to a bar, so things might have changed. Kidding. Coaster. Yeah, Jan, you got it. Salty food. Gordon got it. Bowl of nuts. What are they doing? Why are they sliding that bowl of salty snack food in front of you? Because that sets up the sale that they really want to generate, which is getting you to buy more and more drinks. So with that in mind, with these three problems in mind, as you think to yourself, what mistakes, what challenges, what problems do you see in your business? The question is, what's the solution? Well, the solution, as you might have guessed, is this. Now, specifically, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to focus on three specific parts of this process that I consider to be high leverage, immediately impactful areas of this process that you can start applying in your business immediately, starting by solving that first problem of traffic being too broad. So let's tackle that one right now, starting with this. Now, what you see here in this red box is going to be the first of 3 specific types of surveys that we're going to cover in the next few minutes together that you're going to be able to apply and use in your business. And this first one is something that I call the micro commitment bucket survey. So let's take a look at this landing page here. So you've heard me talk a little bit about our Rocket Memory business, and this is an example of a landing page, typical landing page in that business. Now, when we first entered this market, we modeled what everybody else was doing. Everybody else was doing in this market, and we would send people through a typical, call it an opt-in page, a squeeze page, a sign-up page, whatever you want to call it. And when we did that, here are our results. Now, what you're looking at here is our AdWords dashboard, paid advertising, our Google AdWords dashboard for this business. And what you're looking at, the numbers in the red square, are the cost per subscriber. So when we launched this business, we were paying $12.89 per subscriber, and with an opt-in or subscribe rate of 5.15%. So that was the percent of people who were opting in, 5.15%. So show of hands, is that a good number or is that a bad number? The answer is neither. It's terrible. The number is absolutely terrible. And every time that I look at this screenshot here, I'm telling you, I get anxiety in my stomach about how much money we were losing when we were doing this. In fact, it reached a point where I was almost close to giving up on this business. I was close to giving up on this business. And what I decided to do is I said, well, time out a second. Let's take a look at how I would communicate with someone in this market if I were sitting down or standing next to them in person, right? Because what we were trying to do is what everybody else was doing, which is, and we've all seen it before, check out our free report. It's the absolute best report, and here's why. Check out our 14 tips to improve your memory, and they're the absolute best in the world, which is really just a game of standing on your tippy toes and trying to yell louder than the guy or girl next to you. And it's just a game of, well, 14 free tips, well, 15 free tips. And what I found is that, see, everyone in this market was doing the same thing that you see in almost every market, which is people trying to jam their one-size-fits-all offer or answer or solution down your throat. So instead, what I said is, well, how would I have a conversation with someone in person? And I thought back to when I was on campus at Brown, and I was teaching a section of neuroscience. I taught a section of neuroscience for 2 years at Brown. And I thought, and part of that, I also taught people how to improve their memory and the memory strategies that we teach in our courses. And I thought, well, if someone approached me on campus, how would I respond? Now, if someone reached out to me and said, hey, Ryan, I think I heard you do this stuff with memory. Can you help me? The last thing that I would do is take out a clipboard and say, check it out. I've got 14 free tips to improve your memory. Enter your name and email here on this clipboard. And once you do that, I'll take those free tips out of my pocket and hand them to you. I mean, it would be like the most socially awkward thing in the world to do. So instead, it would be a much more human conversation. And I thought, well, it would go a little something like this. Someone would reach out to me and I would say, well, thanks so much for reaching out. It is true. I do help people improve their memory. But before I know if I can help you, what I really need is a little bit more information. If you could take a moment to tell me a little bit about your challenges, about your goals, what you're trying to do, things that you've tried before. If you take a moment to do that now, not only will I be able to point you in the right direction and tell you what's best for you, but I'll also be able to customize what I think is the best plan for your particular situation. And so I thought, what if I apply that same approach and that same basic script online? So when we did that, the results were shocking. We went from $13 per subscriber to $4.97, and from 5% opt-in rate to 12.5% opt-in rate, which means if you're doing the math at home, we decreased our cost per lead by 61% and increased our opt-in rate by 143%. But the good news is, over time, that whole bucket survey process evolved to include something I describe as micro commitments. Now, once again, I thought, okay, what can we use from psychology, from neuroscience, from my background that is something that that's been proven to help with this relationship building process. And I started diving back into the literature around fear and change. And you see, what's interesting is that whenever you ask someone to make some sort of change in their life, basically what happens is it elicits the fear response, more specifically that fight or flight response, which is housed in an area of the brain in the limbic system known as the amygdala. And that fight or flight response fires off whenever someone is asked to make any sort of change, even if it's a positive change. And so what happens is when you are in an online environment and you're asking someone to make some sort of step or take some sort of action, the brain perceives it as a threat. It's literally threatening your prospect's brain. And when that threat is perceived, the fight or flight response kicks in, and that's why so many people bounce. That's why so many people leave a website. So I thought, well, what if there is a way to hack that response? And the answer is, there is a way to hack the response, and it has to do with micro commitments. Because you see, if you can make the size of the step that you're asking someone to take to be so small that it doesn't elicit those fight or flight warning bells, you can literally fly below the radar. You can fly below the radar, not elicit that threat response in your prospect's brain, and when you do that, the results are pretty interesting. So what we decided to experiment with is, instead of asking people for all the information that we wanted up front, we started experimenting with short little videos with a button. And the button asked a series of multiple choice questions when someone clicked on it that ultimately led to a simple little opt-in step. And when we tried that in this example, in the memory example, here are the results. Overnight, we went from $4.97 per lead to $3 per lead, and a 12.5% opt-in or subscriber conversion rate to 19% conversion rate, which meant overall we decreased our cost per subscriber by 76% and increased our subscriber opt-in rate by 271%. Now, I know those numbers are just numbers, so think about it like this. Imagine if you're paying $1 per subscriber right now. If you're running traffic on Facebook or Google AdWords or some sort of paid traffic source, and you're paying $1 to generate every subscriber on your email list, it would be like waking up tomorrow and each subscriber costing 24 cents. But the good news is it gets even better. When you solve the second problem that we talked about, which is not knowing why people who visit your website, your prospects, don't buy. Now, in this case, we are going to talk about the second survey in our group of 3 surveys, something that has been affectionately described as the Do You Hate Me survey. So the question is, what is the Do You Hate Me survey? Well, the Do You Hate Me survey is like this. Whenever I try to sell something in any of the markets that we're in, one of the big things that I like to do is try to offer at some point along the way the absolute best possible deal that I can offer. Now, I'm not a big fan of discounts. I'm not a big fan of discounts because it can cheapen your brand, it can cheapen what you sell. But what I am a big fan of is what I describe as lowering the buying threshold. Lowering the buying threshold makes it easier for people to take action to work with you. So what it might mean is, if you sell a product, offering that product for a $1 trial. Or if you have a product that's physical, maybe you offer a just pay shipping offer, where instead of having to pay the full price of the product up front, they're just paying shipping. And then after you've gone through that process and you've made your absolute best effort to sell whatever it is that you're trying to sell in the lowest threshold possible way, if people still don't buy, this is where you introduce the Do You Hate Me survey. And the Do You Hate Me survey is basically an email that goes out that asks a very simple question, which is, do you hate me? Now, there are variations on this. You don't have to necessarily use that exact phraseology. I'm going to go through the actual wording of this email in just a moment. This is something, by the way, if you want to take notes, this is the exact copy that you can use in your business, and I would urge you to take notes because this is highly tested, and we've used this in a number of different markets. Now, if "do you hate me" is a little too polarizing for your market, you can use the language, "have I done something wrong? Was it something I said?" But the premise remains the same. We're basically asking a question: why didn't you buy? And we have to do it in a way that ruffles a few feathers and gets people to open up their eyes and wake up. It's sort of like splashing water in someone's face in order to get their attention. And so the "Do you hate me" survey reads like this. Subject line: "Do you hate me?" Hey, it's Ryan here, and I need your help real quick. But first, I need to ask you a question. Do you hate me? And I'll always throw in a little winky smiley face or something so people know that I'm saying it tongue-in-cheek and that it's a joke. I'm asking because the other day I gave you a chance to try the XYZ program for free, but for some reason you passed, and that's perfectly fine. But it did strike me as a little bit weird, and it did make me wonder. Is it because of me? Was it something I said? Something I didn't say? Or in other words, do you hate me? If you could do me a favor and click on the link below and answer the question, what was the single biggest reason why you decided not to invest in this product? It would mean the absolute world to me. Thanks so much. All my best, Ryan. Okay, that's the email in a nutshell. Question is, what's the big deal? Well, let's go through another case study, this time in another market, and to talk about what the big deal is. So we ran this email recently in another market. What you're looking at here is an Aweber dashboard, Aweber email service provider. And we sent this email out to about 22,000 people who did not buy the particular product that we were selling. And of those people, 7,500 people opened the email, 2,000 people clicked, and of the 2,000, just over 1,000 ended up completing the survey. And what you're looking at here is our survey gizmo dashboard. So we went through the process that we go through where we analyze those survey results, and what we found was something unusual. We found 5 specific reasons why people did not invest in the training program that we would put together, the program, and where we completely missed the mark, we completely missed the boat in overcoming objections and overcoming the questions that people had about the product. And then on top of that, probably the most egregious mistake that we made is that we ran this promotion for this product over a weekend that was a holiday weekend for a specific religious group. And we were completely blown away by the number of people who had reached out to us by email telling us that they were in part of this religious group. They would have loved to have taken advantage of the offer, but they had unplugged for the weekend. They didn't check their email. They were away. They were visiting family, et cetera, et cetera. So here's what we decided to do. We said, why don't, to be fair, because we don't want to be unfair to any group of people, we said, why don't we reopen this special offer? Same offer, the same special deal that we did. Let's reopen it to this group of 22,000 people. And then in addition, let's take a moment to answer those 5 questions where we completely missed the mark in how to, in explaining, questions about the product and how it worked and everything like that. And let's even do a webinar where we take a moment to answer those questions, and we'll reopen the window to take advantage of this for another 48 hours. So that's exactly what we did. And the results were surprising. So we generated an additional 445 sales, representing about $19,000 in income, just from this simple little survey. Now, I get that this number in a vacuum doesn't mean anything, so I want to put this into context for you in terms of the overall scope and size of this particular promotion. So just to recap, we sent this email out to 22,000 non-buyers. 7,500 people opened, 2,000 people clicked, 1,000 people took the survey, and 445 people bought, which means the percent of non-buyers who bought, people who did not buy the product originally, who ended up buying, just over 2%. So remember we talked a few minutes ago about the real secret to taking your business to the next level is finding a way to monetize that other 90%, the 90% of people who are visiting your blog, who are signing up for your list, but who are not buying anything? Well, the secret to monetizing that 90% is chipping away 1% at a time. Now, in case you're wondering in terms of the overall context, the number of buyers that we had before the Do You Hate Me sequence, 1,238, which the additional 445 buyers represented an increase of just under 36%. So who wants to grow your business by 36% simply by sending out a simple little email asking people, do you hate me? Or did I say something wrong? Or was it something I said? Now, the good news is it actually gets even better. When we solve the third problem, which is not knowing what else to sell your customers. And surprise, surprise, to solve this problem, we're going to use the third survey in our sequence of 3 surveys that we're talking about today, at least. And that survey is something we call the pivot survey. Now, the pivot survey is this. So after you run the Do You Hate Me survey, I don't know if you've noticed, but 445 sales is great. There's still over 21,000 people that this went out to who did not buy. 21,000 people who ended up not buying for a whole host of different reasons. And when you do the Do You Hate Me survey, what you'll find that's interesting is that there's some reasons why people don't buy that you cannot solve with the product. You'll have some people who say, this is too expensive, it's outside of my price range. You'll have some people who say that I want to do something with you, but this just isn't the right fit. You'll have some people who will say, you know what, to be honest, I'd rather spend more money with you. But what I'm looking for is someone to help me do it for me, or hold me by the hand, or coach me through this, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so the next step is to run what we call the pivot survey. Now, the pivot survey is effectively a game of the first thing I tried to sell you was not a fit, so what else can I try to sell you next? Now, it's not framed like that to the actual subscriber, to your market. That's effectively what you're doing. Really, it's a way to get closer to what it is that your subscriber or prospect actually wants. Now, let's go through an example. So an example is what you see here. So just to read a bit of copy, the example is starting in the middle. I'm like the brain surgeon who comes in, does his one piece, saves the guy's life, and then moves on to the next one. There are maybe 3 people in the world who could do it, and I am one of them. So the big question is this. What would you like me to talk about next? How to get more clients, how to raise your rates, or how to productize your services? Now, I know it gets cut off, but it goes on to say, simply click on the link above to tell me which best describes where you'd like to go next. And starting today, we'll begin covering information on the topic that you choose. Okay. So the question is, what's the big deal? So in that same example, after we ran the Do You Hate Me survey, we ran the pivot survey immediately after. And when we did that, just to look at the overall numbers, remember in the previous example, we did 1,238 initial buyers, an additional 445 Do You Hate Me buyers, a total number of just under 1,700 buyers. When we ran the pivot survey, we picked up an additional 217 buyers. Now, just to put this in the overall context of the entire marketing campaign, just to appreciate the value in these 2 surveys, initially we generated about $53,000 in revenue. Picked up an additional $19,000 by running the Do You Hate Me survey. And when we added the pivot survey on top of it, we picked up an additional $8,000 in revenue, representing a total additional revenue of $27,000. And without doing these 2 surveys, this promotion would have only generated $53,000 in revenue. Altogether, over $80,000 in revenue, which generated a 51.91 increase in the size of this promotion, simply by asking those 2 questions. Do you hate me? And what would you like us to cover next? Now, show of hands, who would like to grow your business by 51% simply by asking a few simple questions, right? Now, and by the way, to put this into context, because I know sometimes these numbers are sort of a little bit abstract, 51% would be like if you made $100,000 this year, making $150,000 next year. Or if you made $50,000 this year, making $75,000 next year. Or if you made $200,000, making $300,000 next year. And the best part is that this is just scratching the surface, because by the way, this doesn't even include the pivot survey to buyers. This only includes the pivot survey to prospect, which is where the real opportunity is. So like I said, this stuff is simple, right? But simple gets results. 3 million leads, 200,000 customers, 23 markets, $100 million in online revenue using the 3 techniques that we covered, the micro commitment bucket survey, the do you hate me survey, and the prospect pivot survey, which in the overall process fit in these 3 boxes here, 1, 2, 3. Now, if you're like most people, the question you might be asking yourself is, okay, well, what about everything else? I get the fact that the micro commitment survey is powerful, but what questions are you asking in that survey? How many questions are you asking? How do you figure out which buckets to send people into? And how do you tee up the survey in such a way that people are actually motivated and persuaded to take it? And I'll give you a hint there. You're not calling it a survey. People hate surveys. There's a stigma attached to surveys. The way you do this is people don't even realize they're taking a survey. And then what about after they take that survey? What happens next? Are you selling them something? And if so, how are you positioning it? What are you actually selling in the what we call same visit sale? And what about the money is in the back end? What else are you selling people, and how do you decide what you're going to sell people next? And I'll give you a hint. There are 3 specific structures that we use where we actually analyze the survey data and we send people into one of several structures depending on how they answer the survey. And what about those emails? Yes, the emails are effective, but not because they exist in a vacuum, but because of the way that they're teed up with all the emails that lead up to them. So the question is, how does this all fit together, and what is this exactly? Well, what you're looking at here is the survey funnel formula. This is the formula that we use in market after market to generate upwards of 52,000 subscribers every single day across all the different markets that I mentioned earlier, as well as some more. Now, what I want to do now is walk you through the process of how you can set up one of these survey funnels in your business using the same 6-week process that we use to launch one of these funnels every time that we enter a new market. Now, in the first week, what we start with is something that we call the deep dive pre-survey. Now, the deep dive survey isn't something that we've had a chance to talk about today, but this is really the survey that serves as a foundation for everything else. This is the deep dive. This is an open-ended survey that you conduct once to gather all the intelligence that you need about your market, to figure out what hot buttons exist, to figure out which buckets to focus on, to figure out what questions to ask in that micro commitment bucket survey, the one which has the multiple choice, simple questions that lead people to your opt-in subscriber link. Now, in the second week, we build out that micro commitment bucket survey, which again is based on the results of the deep dive pre-survey. This is where we come up with those questions and determine exactly how it's going to be structured. Then once we've done that, in the third week, we design our prospect self-discovery landing page, and in many cases, video. Now, when I say prospect self-discovery, the angle that we use to get people motivated and persuaded to go through one of these micro commitment bucket surveys is to appeal to their sense of self-discovery, discovering something about themselves. And in the third week is when we build that out. Now, the fourth week is where we design what we call the same visit sale, generally video sales letter. So this is the thing that we are immediately selling to someone, whether it's an ebook, a course, a service, whatever it may be, immediately after they go through the survey. And again, the point of this is that we're customizing how we're positioning that offer based on how they answer the initial survey. This gives us that ability. Remember, we talked about the memory example. How do you speak to an 18-year-old college student and a 65-year-old man concerned about mental decline at the same time selling the same thing? The answer is you don't. You have variations on what you are talking about that appeal to each of those different buckets of people in your market. And week 4 is where we design that customized same visit sale video sales letter. Now in week 5 is where we build out the profit maximization upsell sequence. So we talked about the money being in the back end. The money is in the other stuff that you sell. Well, this is where we design that. And then finally in week 6 is where we build out our prospect and customer autoresponder email sequences that culminate in a pivot. Remember that pivot survey where it's what would you like us to talk about next? That is the last step that bookends the last step in one of our survey funnels. And the best part, once you've done that pivot and you've sent people into one of several directions, you can just string these together one right after the other. In fact, we have some markets where we have 6, 7, or 8 of these that are strung together one right after the other. And that's the beautiful thing about this, is once you've built your first version, your first survey funnel, then you have an opportunity to build your next one and the next one and the next one. Now, the reason why I'm bringing all this up is because very recently, within the last year, this was something, up until very recently in the last year, this was something that I had never shared publicly. This is my secret sauce. This is my methodology, what I've used to generate all my personal wealth, all of our success in business. And it was only me and a handful of high-level private clients that ever were privy to the entire process. And I've given you a peek into that process. But about a year ago, I had a challenge. I attended a mastermind and I said, the demand for the work that I'm doing is outstrip my ability to deliver it. And so I want to expand my team. I've got to hire a bunch of people and expand my team. And my idea is this. My idea is that I need to get these team members trained up as quickly as possible. So I thought, why don't I take them through the process of how I build, design, and structure one of these sales funnels from start to finish, let them watch over my shoulder, go through the process with me so they can follow along at the same time and become masters in this process in as little as 6 weeks. And the response at the mastermind was, well, yeah, Ryan, that makes complete sense. That's perfectly smart. And then after I brought this up at the end of the presentation, someone in the back of the room raised his hand and he said, hey, Ryan, I know you're talking about doing this as an internal training program within your company, but is there any way that I might be able to sit in on this and take notes and learn this for myself? And then basically everyone around the room, kind of one hand at a time, raised their hands and said, yeah, I'd love to be part of this as well. I'd be interested. And up until that point, it wasn't something that I ever considered. This isn't something I ever considered revealing publicly because it's so valuable, and it truly is my secret family recipe. It's the secret that we have used to generate all the results that you've seen. But I decided to do it as an experiment, and I took people through this, and the response was overwhelming. People were blown away. People went through it and they said, I get it. They said, I used to think that, Ryan, you were a brilliant marketer, and now I realize that it's the process that is so brilliant, and that anybody can follow this simple process, even if you're just getting started. But people had 2 questions. The first question was, well, what if I don't have a market? What if I'm just getting started? How do I decide if the market I'm considering is even worth going into? So I decided with that group to share something I had never shared before as well, which I'm going to be sharing with you today as well for anybody who wants to move forward and work more closely and get access to everything that I have today, which is this. I want to show you and give you access to something that I call my green light project checklist method. This is the process that we use internally in my company It's a process that you can use to evaluate your next market, your next project, or your next product opportunity before you get started. You see, people ask, Ryan, how are you able to successfully enter market after market without any failure? Like you have almost 100% success rate. How do you do that? And the answer is we kill a lot of ideas early on in the process. You see, John brought this up at the very beginning, and I'm so glad he did, which is that so many of us work and we just wonder. We spend 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months working on something, and we're wondering, is this ever going to make money? Like, have I just wasted 6 months of my life? Or even worse, have I wasted like 3 months, 3 years, of my life? See, what we do is we go through a green light checklist method. And the green light system is simple. We have a series of quantitative checks along the way that help us decide if a project is a green light, a yellow light, or a red light. So for example, when we're looking at a market, we have something called our 5 market must-haves. These are 5 things that every market should have, must have, before we consider entering it. And if a market has any fewer than 5, then it's a red light. We just hit the brakes right there. We don't even go any further. Then the next step is we take a look at the competitive landscape. And we have what we call the 6 competitive red flags. And we look, and if the market has anywhere more than 1 competitive red flag, it becomes a red light, and we stop there. And then we look at the possible size of the market. And every single parameter that you can think of, we have a quantitative way to measure and evaluate, should we pursue this further or should we stop here? And what this allows you to do is, if you're considering starting a new business, a new blog, and a new market, you can go through this process and in as little as a week say, you know what, this isn't the right market, I'm going to pivot and do something else. Rather than spending 3 years guessing or going down the wrong path, right? It's sort of like digging for gold. You know that you can work and work and work, but if you're not digging in ground where there's gold, you ain't going to make any money. And the same thing is true online. If you're pursuing a direction that is not going to yield you fruit, it doesn't matter how hard you work, it doesn't matter how many hours you put in after you put the kids to bed. And I know, because we put our 2 sons to bed, and I burn the midnight oil. It doesn't matter how many hours you spend late at night, weekends and nights. If you're moving in the wrong direction, it does not matter. This process here eliminates that risk completely and virtually guarantees that whatever direction you pursue is going to be profitable. Okay? That was the first question people had when they went through this, is they said, what if I don't know what market to pursue? The second question that they asked is, Ryan, one of the reasons why your sales funnels are so successful is because the copy, the language that you use is so compelling. It's so persuasive. And I am not a trained copywriter, and I don't have the budget to hire a copywriter myself. I haven't invested 10,000 hours of my life mastering the skill of marketing copy. So what I want to do today is the same thing that I did for that initial group of people who went through this training, and that's this. I want to give you access to a program that I developed with a marketer that some people might know by the name of John Benson about 5 years ago, called VSSL FastTrack. This is a program that shows you how to develop and write landing page, same visit sell, upsell video sales letters, even if you're not yet a world-class copywriter. This is a program that you cannot purchase. You cannot buy this program. This is a program that we sold hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of copies for $497, and we had to take it off the market, and the reason is simple. One day after we started selling this very well, John Benson, not John Morrow, but John Benson, approached me and he said, Ryan, I think we're undercharging for this dramatically. In fact, I want to create a $2,000 to $3,000 high-level program that teaches the same information. But the problem is, if I do that, then we cannot sell this $497 version because it's going to cannibalize our sales. Would you be open to taking this course off the market? And originally and initially, I relented and I said, well, John, it's doing so well. Why would we ever do that? But eventually we came to an agreement, and the agreement was simple. The agreement was that I would never be able to sell this course ever again, but I could make it available as a bonus to anyone who invested in another training program or who decided to work with me in a different capacity. And by the way, in case you're wondering, this particular course itself, which by the way, you'll be getting access to for free when you move forward in just a moment. Just to give you a sense for the value in this course, you can listen to what Jonathan said, and he says, so I jumped into the VSL course and was able to generate a funnel that's converting at 250% better than my old video. Now, the question is, what is this package, this program going to cost? When I've offered this and shared this with people in the past, people have compared it to programs like Jeff Walker's product launch formula, which sells for several $1,000s, and programs like that. And but the good news is this: this program isn't something that's going to cost several $1,000s or even $1,000. It isn't even going to cost $497 like the VSL FastTrack program, which you're getting for free. The entire package that I mentioned here today, which is the 6-week survey funnel formula training program, plus the VSL FastTrack course, plus the Greenlight Project checklist program, can be yours today for just one payment of $197. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this link in the chat. And if you would do me a favor, as I put this link in the chat, would you just click on the link and let me know that the link is working, because I want to make sure I didn't type this in wrong. So surveyfunnelformula.com/MORROW. You just do me a favor, click on that link, and let me know if that link is working. And I want to take a moment to answer a few important questions here in just a moment. Now, let's see, is the link working? It is. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Yes, awesome. Thanks, Rick, Jack, Ralph, super appreciate it. Yes, TJ asked a great, LJ asked a great question. If you're not thinking this already, is why so cheap? Why so cheap? If I'm supposedly making millions of dollars every single year, if this is my secret family recipe, why so cheap? There are two answers. The first answer is it's the same reason why I decided to publish our book this year. 3 years ago, after my first son was born, something unusual happened where I started getting very sick. Long story short, I had lost about 35 pounds and was extremely tired, and we didn't know why. And after my son was born, he was about 6 months old, my wife insisted that I apply for life insurance. And she said, honey, you're the main breadwinner in the family. If something happens to you, you need to apply for life insurance. We've got a baby now, and it's the responsible thing to do. So I applied for life insurance, and the medical examiner came to the house, took my blood, and did the lab work. And I had to rush to a conference. It was actually ClickBank Exchange in 2012 in Times Square, New York, at the Marriott Marquis. And I went to ClickBank Exchange, and I came back from that trip in August 2012 to a pile of mail on my desk, and the top of the mail was an envelope. The envelope was from the life insurance company. And I opened up the envelope first in the mail, sort of expecting to just, okay, check that box off and be all set. And instead, it was a one-page letter that read, denied. And I thought, there must be some mistake. I'm 30 years old. I'm relatively healthy for the most part. Never had any major health issue in my life. There must be a mistake. So I called up the life insurance agent, and I asked him, and I said, I think there must be some mistake. Can you check? I think they must have mixed their letters up. And the life insurance agent said, Ryan, it's not a mistake, and I think you might want to sit down to hear what I'm about to say. And he said, I have your letter in front of me. I also have your lab results in front of me. And your lab results, Ryan, are off the charts. And he gave me the numbers, and I wrote them down. And I made the biggest mistake that you could ever make, which is I went to Google and started looking up what those numbers meant. By the way, if this ever happens to you, don't go to Google. And the results said kidney failure, renal system shutdown, pancreatic failure, and it got worse. And I started to freak out, as you can imagine. And my, later that night after we put our son to bed, my wife kind of casually asked me, because I hadn't shared any of the results with her yet. She said, "Hey, Ryan, all set on the life insurance? Are we good to go?" Kind of expecting that we'd be, buttoned up. And I said, "Well, honey, not exactly, and I think we need to talk." I shared the results with her, and she freaked out. She started, crying immediately. And then she got mad at me. She said, "Ryan, you've pushed it too far. I know you. You pushed your body to the max. You did this to yourself. You worked too hard, blah, blah, blah." And she called the Ask a Nurse line, and we got a doctor's appointment for the first thing the next morning to see if just to make sure the lab results were real. So we go to the doctors. I get the lab results. I get blood work done. The doctor hears our story. It's a doctor I'd never met before, and he says, "Well, stick around. I'll do the lab results stat, and I'll come back out." And when he comes back out, his demeanor completely changed. He walked out, and I remember it like it was yesterday. He grabs me by the shoulders, and he says, "Ryan, you should be in a coma right now. You need to go to the emergency room right now, and you're not driving." And so I was rushed to the emergency room, and there I found out that I had fallen into a state known as DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis. And DKA is either life-threatening, or if people live, they find out after they've slipped into a coma. Oftentimes people are driving or they are doing something and they pass out. And I was days away from that happening. And I went to the emergency room, and I had to spend about 10 days in ICU on life support, where they had pumped about 15, 20 pounds of fluid back into my body, and essentially brought my organs back to life. I walked out of that. My pancreas doesn't work. I lost function in my pancreas. And I walked out of that experience basically finding out that I was a juvenile diabetic, diagnosed in my 30s, which is extremely rare. They call it juvenile diabetes for a reason. Most people find out when they're a young child. Some people find out when they're a teenager. To find out when you're in your 30s is very rare. And I had done a tremendous amount of damage to my organs. And I walked out of the hospital with a life expectancy that's not what it was when I walked into that hospital. And when you spend 10 days by yourself in a hospital bed where your family can't see you, because my wife couldn't really visit me. We had a young baby at home, and she had to stay away, and I couldn't see my son, and my family couldn't really visit because we didn't want to pass any germs along to my young baby. You come to terms with your own mortality like that, and you start to, it changes your perspective. And one of the things that I walked away with from that hospital experience and that near-death experience is I said, what I have here, this formula, this approach, is too valuable for me to keep it to myself. It's too valuable for me to keep it in my hands and the hands of a few high-level businesses. I need to get this out to the world. And I stepped out of that hospital, and ever since, I've been like a bullet out of a gun on a mission to get this in as many businesses, as many people's hands as possible. It's the reason why we published the book. It's the reason why I worked as hard as I could to make that book a #1 bestseller. It's the reason why it's the #1 business book in the country right now as we speak. It's the reason why, if you're asking yourself, why am I giving away this information at a price that's so embarrassingly low compared to what other people are paying for it, that's the reason why. Now, there's a second reason, and I want to be totally transparent about what I'm about to say. And the second reason is this. I'm not an idiot, okay? And I know that whenever I make this training program available, for every 100 people who invest in the $197 training, there are 1 or 2 in that group who reach out and say, "Ryan, this is absolutely brilliant. But to be honest, I'd rather just hire you and your company to build one of these sales funnels for me. I understand it costs tens of thousands of dollars. Would you be open to working with me? And that's my dirty little secret, is that I know that for every 100 people on this call who invest in this training today, there will be one or two, and that's all I need, one or two who will say, you know what, I'd love for you to work with me. And when we do that, my goal is to get this in as many people's hands as possible so that we can get to those one or two people as quickly as possible. Now, I do want to mention something else, and I want to take a moment to answer any and all questions that have come through, because I see there's a lot of great questions that are coming through. And I just want to mention just one or two more things, and we're going to get to those questions in just a moment. And the first thing is this. Now, I get the fact that we don't know each other very well. We've only had a chance to spend a little over an hour, hour and a half together. And because of that, I don't want you to have to decide right now if the survey funnel formula is right for you. So here's what I'd like for you. Here's what I'd like to do. I want to give you an opportunity to go through the first 4 weeks of the course before you even have to decide if you want to keep it. No questions asked, no hoops to jump through or anything like that. In other words, you have a full 30-day, 100% money-back guarantee where you can check everything else for yourself. You can go through all the training videos. You can download all the checklists. You can download all the step-by-step how-to information to your hard drive. You can test out the information for yourself. You can follow along with me in real time and implement this in your business. And if you love it and get the results that you are expecting and love it as much as I think you will, then just keep it. And if for some reason you decide that it's not for you for any reason or no reason at all you need to do is send Kimberly, my customer support director, her name is Kimberly, her email address, and I'll put it in the chat here, is contact@RL Associates LLC. Just send Kimberly an email and she will take care of you. Contact@RLAssociatesLLC.com, and Kimberly will take care of you. Now, if you're wondering, okay, this is all great, and I get, Ryan, I believe you. Like, I believe that you've gotten these results. I believe you've gotten these results for your clients, but what about everybody else? Like, what about people who've gone through this training? What kind of results are they getting from this process? Well, let's go through a few examples real quick. So you can listen to, for example, Will, who says that this is the best and most comprehensive use of the surveying and segmenting technique that he's seen to date. Or Darren, who says, I use the layering technique he mentioned. I'm now getting a 53% opt-in rate from Facebook traffic after people self-qualify through a 3-question survey. Or Ronald Wright, who says, to date, the project that he's worked on has resulted in over $500,000 in revenue using this exact process. Or Antonio, who says, I purchased a while back, and honestly, I didn't even get a chance to go through the whole thing yet. But already my clients have had great results. In fact, one client has had over 700 leads or subscribers generated for his business, which turned into a 6 figures in coaching clients. Or Darren, who says, and like you mentioned, ours is really half-assed, and he's talking about his setup of his own survey funnel. Our survey funnel is really half-assed at this point, yet it's still producing a 40% lift in total monthly revenue year after year. And Brandon says, by building out a survey funnel and following Ryan's model, I was able to grow from 70% ROI, losing money, to 150% ROI, making money. And Corey says, since buying Ryan's course, I landed a cold traffic funnel client for $20,000 plus 10% of funnel earnings and a % of media spend. And Sean, who writes, by simply following the formula and pathways that Ryan has laid out, I secured an $84,000 contract from a client as a freelancer to start in January of 2015 with a deposit. And in case you're wondering, what are other marketers saying about this? Ryan Dice says, if paid traffic is what you're after, then you're wise to study Ryan Levesque. His stuff is built for scale. And there are marketers ranging from Ryan Dice to Perry Marshall, Brian Kurtz, Keith Baxter, Andre Chaperone, Ben Settle, Jack Bourne, Harlan Kilstein, Danny Inney, Kurt Malley, Keith Krantz, Kevin Rogers, to Michael Lovich, Buck Risby, Steve Gray, Erica Rocha, Marisa Murgatroyd, Charles Kirkland, Greg Wells, Ryan Lee, Todd Brown, Russell Brunson, Dagan Smith, Jeff Walker, Jonathan Mizell, and Derek Johansson are all customers. Every single one paying customers and clients. And the businesses that are using this include Fortune 500, Inc. 500 companies that you'd be familiar with. And remember that this is the same information that people pay $5,000 a month to get access to me, to get access to just an hour of my time every single week. And that group has been booked up for 18 months with over 100 people on the wait list. And if you look at the results that people are getting in their own words, recorded as audio and videos about the actual results that they're getting, literally tripled my profit this year. The survey funnel strategy alone increased front-end conversion by 100%, increased sales by $15,000 per week. There are over 100 people on our website who have given us this type of feedback about the results that they're getting. And remember, you get everything today, access to the 6-week live recorded training program, which includes everything that you see here, plus the VSL FastTrack bonus, plus the Greenlight Project Checklist bonus, all today for just one payment of $197, but only through that link below. In fact, if you go to surveyfunnelformula.com, you'll find that the course is not available. It's not available anywhere else outside of this link that you see right here. And the reason for that is simple. My business, as you can imagine, is set up to help a small number of high-level clients. We are not set up to accept thousands and thousands of new clients every single week. So we open this up periodically so we can get people in, take really good care of you, make sure that you're all set up, and we only do this every so often. The link, once again, is surveyfunnelformula.com/Morrow. And with that being said, John, I'm just going to take a brief sip of water. If you have anything that you'd like to say, please go ahead, and let's start diving into some Q&A into the chat.
Yeah, the one thing that I'd love to say is right now, I mean, one of the reasons why I invited Ryan here today is I'm in the process of launching a new brand. And by the time I'm done, if I do everything that I want to do, it's going to be $100 million a year brand, okay? And if you want to know what system am I using to launch that brand, it's this one right here. This is this course that Ryan is talking about here. I own a copy of it, okay? I'm a customer of Ryan's. And right now, my team is going through this 6-week course, this exact same course that he's offering here to launch a new massive site, okay? So, I mean, the only products and courses that I recommend to you guys are the ones that I use myself, the ones that I'm getting results from myself. And in my opinion, it's one of the smartest courses ever created. And if you're trying to learn exactly what you're doing and set up a system to do things for you, there's absolutely nothing better than this out on the market right now, especially if you're a beginner, okay? So I think that's all I have to say.
John, that's awesome. I really appreciate that. I didn't know that. I'm going to be watching you because you're a guy that I think is just doing so many smart, amazing things, and I am, paying really close attention to what you're doing. That's really cool. I didn't know that. This is awesome. So let's do this. There are a lot of great questions that are coming through. Let's go through some of them, and I think some of them are also directed to John as well, to you as well. So first question is, can I use this if I don't already have an email list? That's a great question, and the answer is absolutely. See, that's what's really cool about this is a great process for breaking into a new market. So not only are you getting access to the survey funnel process itself, but you're also getting access to that Greenlight Project Checklist that can help you validate your market idea. Validate, is there enough demand is it even worth pursuing the direction that you're considering? In fact, the example that I gave at the very beginning, where we took a business from nothing to 6 figures within 12 months, this is the exact process that we use. The business, the gardening business that I took from nothing to just under $25,000 a month in 18 months, this is the exact process that we use. We did not have any email list in either of those examples. And so absolutely, in my opinion, this is the process, if you're starting from scratch to get into a new market, that I would follow. All right.
Yep. The other thing I would say there is, yes, I mean, this works great with paid traffic, but even if you have a blog right now, I mean, hopefully you have an email subscription box on your site. You can plug your blog subscribers into this. It works perfectly for that. So you can even, I mean, if you have a website up right now, you can, everyone that's subscribing to your blog right now, you can just put them into the system, and it works perfectly.
Exactly. So another question that's come through, I'm in an industry in which Facebook and Google does not allow me to publish. Will this work for me? And the answer is yes. We're in, in markets, I won't get into them here, but we're in markets which Facebook and Google make things extremely challenging to advertise. And I'll give you some examples of some of the places that we do advertise. So there are some markets that we're able to advertise on YouTube. There's some markets that we're able to use what's called native advertising, which is places like Taboola and Outbrain. We have one client who's generating $16,000 a day on Instagram traffic. Instagram. That blows my mind. So the answer is yes. We're using all traffic sources that you can think of, and I'm happy to answer any specific people have specific traffic questions. But the short answer is any traffic source that you can think of, we're getting into. How does this differ from the book? Great question, which I'm loving, by the way. Thanks so much for that feedback. I appreciate that. This is really the next level. So the book is great. It's a great primer. It's a great starting point. It's one thing to read about something in a book. It's another thing to see the process unfold, right? It's sort of like the difference between reading a recipe and sitting down with someone in the kitchen and watching them how they cook and prepare a 5-star meal. Having the recipe book is great, and it's a great start. And for some people, that might be enough. But really, if you want to be world-class in what you're doing, it's helpful to be able to sit over the shoulder and get inside someone's head and hear them articulate and walk you through the exact process, and not only hear it, but see it unfold step by step. Great question. Going through next. Will this work if I'm in the Netherlands too? Absolutely. We have people all over the world that are using this right now as we speak in different languages. John, there's a question that someone asked. How could you see this? How could you see beginning BLFers use this if we're starting from zero? I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, this is a good thing whenever you're ready to start monetizing. Whenever you're ready to start selling something, this is the system that I would use. So take your existing subscribers, run them through the survey funnel formula, and you'll come out of it with some excellent data on exactly what you should be doing, not to mention sales. So that's how I'd do it.
Great.
Sure.
Great. And this might be a similar question, again, for John, for you. I'm a newbie in your guest blogging program. Would this system make sense for me with no website and getting ready to build a landing page for opt-ins? My answer to that would be, in my opinion, this is where the internet is going. So I have a very simple vision, and the vision is crystal clear in my mind that every single website in the world will have a survey funnel. 10 years ago, it was revolutionary for someone to introduce an opt-in page or a squeeze page, to get someone to just provide their name and email before getting started. And that's become so commonplace, we almost take it for granted. And now what's happening is that the internet's evolved in such a way that people are expecting more customized responses. There's a great infographic that came out. There's a great infographic that came out by the website BuzzFeed. I don't know if you saw it, John. And I know this is sort of deep in your world. And I shared this with our mutual friend, Sonia. And the BuzzFeed infographic had the top 10 three-word phrases that generated the most viral traction on Facebook, the most shares on Facebook. Okay, so three-word phrases that BuzzFeed found generated the most shares. And the number one phrase above everything else, Any guesses on what it is? You know what it is, John?
I'm trying to remember what it was. I saw the article, but it's been a little while. Go ahead.
The three-word phrase was character are you. And they're specifically referring to all those little surveys, all those little quizzes that we've all seen. Which Disney character are you?
Oh, yeah. Right.
This is
Yeah.
where things are going. This is how the internet is changing, and you have an opportunity now to be at the forefront of this before your competitors in your space are doing this. This is one of the fastest and easy ways to get a leg up over your competition if you're breaking into a new market and you have no prior experience, is simply do this. Simply do what they're not. Let them be the dinosaurs that are living in the land of squeeze pages, in opt-in pages, while you take that next step. So I don't know if you have anything to add to this, but in my opinion, if you're at the stage in your business where you're considering building your landing page, this is, in my opinion, and we have the data to back it up, generating over 52,000 subscribers every single day, that this is a highly effective strategy worth considering.
Yep, and to answer the question about guest blogging, I mean, what I would do, if I were starting over from scratch today, I would go write a guest post for a big site, like Copyblogger, Lifehacker, Huffington Post, whatever. And I would actually link it to a landing page that would put them in this survey funnel formula. And that actually, by the way, is how I got started without the survey funnel formula. But you can link a guest post up to a funnel like this. And back when I was guest posting, I was averaging $7,000 per guest post, which is more than anyone makes at, the New York Times or wherever to write an article. Okay. So now I'm not promising that you're going to get those same results, right? But the idea is you can take a guest post. They don't care what you link to. So you can link directly to this, and you can find out what your market wants and make money directly from your guest posts without even really having your own site.
Right. Yep. It's really cool. That's a great point. I love that. Someone asked a question about, can you use this with the Genesis WordPress? Fantastic question. Our Rocket Memory website, the one that you saw, is built with the Genesis theme framework on WordPress. So that's a great question. Just signed up. When do we start? Hey, Franco. Awesome, man. I'm really excited to have you on board. The answer is you will get a personal email from Kimberly, my assistant, most likely today. It's 2:45 my time here in Texas. It'll most likely come through today. It'll be a personal email. And just to be clear, to set everyone's expectations, everyone who's joining, you're going to be getting a login to my internal company training portal. You're going to get a login as if you were an employee in my company. And we have 25 people in our company right now. So you're going to get a login to that. We're going to set you up as if you were an employee, set you up with access to our internal training, and you're going to get access to all of these things. You're going to get access to the three major programs that we talked about today. So that'll come from Kimberly. And if you don't see that email come through by tomorrow, just send an email to contact@RL Associates LLC, and we'll make sure that we get you set up right away. Okay, let's see. How long? Yeah, how long do we have to sign up? Fantastic question. Like I mentioned, we don't make this program available all the time. We only do this periodically, and we like to get everybody in and started at the same time and taken care of. So the last day to take advantage of this is this Sunday at 11:59. I believe it's May 3rd. This Sunday, May 3rd at 11:59 Pacific Standard Time. But my recommendation to you, I know there's some people who might be listening to this in their car. They might not have their credit card handy, their PayPal account handy or whatever. But my recommendation to you is, if you're watching this now, take advantage of this now while it's on your mind and before you forget about it. I know how it is. I know what it's like. 30 minutes from now, my son's going to come home from school. I'm going to be distracted. I've got a million things going on. I'm going to forget about what's going on. And then before you know it, you're going to get an email that says sold out, last day, expired. You're going to try to click on the link, and it's going to say, sorry, this deal is no longer available. You're going to reach out to my support desk, and my support desk is going to say, sorry, but we honor our promises. When we say something is only available up until a certain date, we're fair to everybody who takes advantage of that. And if you come back on Monday, this will not be available. I'm sorry to say that. So my recommendation is if you're interested or you're even just curious, you just want to check it out, do it now while it's on your mind before you forget about it. All right, great questions coming through. I can't get started until 11th of May. That's perfect. This is a recorded program, so you'll get permanent access to the recordings. And I bring that, that's a great point. Even if you're not quite ready to start this now, I would get in now. Get in now, because I will promise this, that you will never see a lower price available for this training anywhere. I'm getting a lot of pressure and a lot of advice that this should be charged, we should charge anywhere between $1,000 and $2,000 for this training. And I've gotten enough people telling me that now that I'm seriously considering that. So I would hate for you to say, maybe I'll take a look at this in a couple months, and then you hear about it in a couple months and you say, wait, this is, this was $197 a couple months. How is this $2,000 now? This isn't fair. I would take advantage of it now, even if you aren't quite ready to move ahead. Okay, let's see. What software do we use to build landing pages, lead pages, optimize press, ClickFunnels, or funnel hacks? The answer is all of the above. This is a platform agnostic training, meaning that if you're using Genesis theme framework with WordPress, if you're using ClickFunnels, if you are using 10-minute funnels, if you're using the Rainmaker platform, if you're using lead pages, if you're using optimized press with WordPress, any one of these platforms, this will work. What you're going to learn is the persuasive architecture to use to take people through one of these funnels. You're going to learn how to do the deep dive and all the surveys that we haven't even had a chance to talk about that extract and determine the hot buttons in your market, what your market really wants. That's the most important thing. The technology that you decide to use is of secondary importance. And I just recommend that you use whatever technology is most important or is easiest and that you're most familiar with. Now, as far as the survey part of it is concerned, in the training, in the course, I walk through how to use different types of survey software depending on what your budget is. So we walk through, for example, how to use Google Survey in Google Drive, and how to use the forms, which is free. I walk through how to use third-party tools like Survey Gizmo in certain elements. And we even have our own proprietary software. It's called Survey Funnel Software. You can see it at surveyfunnelsoftware.com. And I walk through how to use our software if that's something that you want to do, as well as how to even hire a developer on Elance or Odesk or one of these outsourcing sites to just do the coding work for you. So you really have every option at your disposal, and you're not limited to one of these options. Great. I'm starting a new retirement blog. Will this work to develop a large email following? Absolutely. I mean, I can come up with 10 amazing ideas right now to run people through this. What's the single biggest challenge you have with your retirement today? What's the single biggest, take the quiz to find out how long, your money is going to last. Take the quiz to find out, are you going to outlast your money? Take the survey to find out, what retirement destination is best for, is the best place for you to retire to. I mean, we could come up with a million ideas in that market in just a matter of minutes. All right, let's see. Would this work if what I'm trying to do work for knowing what book to write? Absolutely. So if you're looking to figure out what product to launch next, this is exactly the process that we use. So we say, all right, we've got 3 different ideas. All right, 3 different ideas. Which one should we pursue next? And are they all worth pursuing? We go through the survey funnel process, because the survey funnel process is all about starting with demand in mind first. One of the biggest mistakes that people make in business is they start with a quote unquote brilliant idea. I have this great idea and I'm going to do this. Whereas what this is all about is I have an idea, but before I jump in, I want to see what the market thinks about this idea. And let's get their feedback, and let's incorporate their feedback in the way we communicate. See, the secret to writing brilliant copy and writing in a way that people really want to build a relationship with people is to echo back the language that they actually use themselves. In our memory business, for example, I did a survey, and one of the responses that came back, this is years ago now, was what's the single biggest challenge you're having with improving your memory? And someone said, I'm like the poster child for poor memory. Now, do you think that I came up with that brilliant piece of copy? No, that came straight out of a prospective customer's mouth, and that's become one of our most successful email subject lines, one of our most successful headlines and subheadlines in the copy that we write, and it all comes from surveys. So there's a tremendous amount of value that comes from this. Question: will we have a place? If we have questions, for people who bought the survey funnel training, we've put now several thousand people through this training, and what happens is, and you'll see this, what happens is we ask questions, no surprises. Every time you go through a module, you'll get an email asking, did you have any unanswered questions after going through this training? And after you put several thousand people through that training, you tend to see the same questions come up over and over. And what we've done is we've incorporated that feedback in the training. So for example, what you'll find is that every time we released a module, we then went back and re-released the module and added additional material to answer the most frequently asked questions that have come up along the way. Now, there's John is part of a separate group that we have, which is a paid group that goes above and beyond this program, which is exclusively for people who have gone through this particular training. So once you've graduated and you've gone through this 6-week course, you will have an opportunity to join over 700 other marketers who are implementing this in their business right now as we speak, so you can trade ideas and see what's working in that group. Just to be clear, that's a separate program from what this is. The first step is that you must successfully complete this program. It's sort of like if you've ever gone to, if you attended college and you have the first year introductory course that you need to go through before you're allowed to participate in the advanced level courses. This is the foundation course that's going to give you everything you need to participate in the advanced level discussion. I teach figurative language to elementary school students, and I have an ebook. Will this work for that? Absolutely. You can ask, in every market. So I'll answer it like this. The question is, will this work for me? The answer is, if you fit into one of the following 2 categories, the answer is this is a strategy that can work for your business. So the first category is this. If you have a business where you have multiple products, multiple things that you might sell, and someone comes into your website and they don't know where they should start, this is the perfect tool to sift and sort them in the best possible direction. That's the first category. The second category is this. Whether you sell one product or many products, let's pretend you sell one thing for a moment. If you sell one thing to a market of people, and within that group of people, there are different subgroups who have slightly different needs, slightly different wants, slightly different desires, slightly different challenges that they might be facing. Maybe there's a difference between men and women. Maybe there's a difference between parents and non-parents. Maybe there's a difference between people who have already retired and people who are considering retiring. Or maybe there's a difference between parents and teachers of those children. And if you fall into that category where you sell or you try to reach, or your audience consists of multiple groups of people within one market, this is the perfect strategy to sift and sort and put those people, again, instead of trying to jam a one-size-fits-all solution down their throat and say, hey, take a look at why my ebook's the best. Instead, what you're doing is you're saying, let me ask you a few questions to learn a little bit more about your situation. And from there, I can point you in the right direction, or I can talk about why this ebook might be a good fit for you. It's really a game of diagnose and prescribe. Just like when you walk into the doctor and the doctor asks you a few questions about your symptoms, what you're going through, and then prescribes a customized plan of action. This is effectively what you're doing using this process. you explain a little bit more about the bonus that helps you determine whether your biz idea is viable? I'm happy to answer any specific questions about that. It's the exact process that we use. We go through a framework. We call it the green light framework, where we have a numerical, a very quantitative, very analytical approach that we use to evaluate every step along the way. So looking at a new market, okay, great. Does it meet our 5 market must-haves? We go through that detailed checklist. Does it meet market must-have number 1? Let's evaluate that. Market must-have number 2, let's evaluate that. If it doesn't meet those criteria, we hit the pause button right there. We don't pursue it even any further. If it passes that test, then we get to the next test along the way. And there we would look at our competitive landscape. And we go on and on and on down that process, which is a process that saves you tremendous time, effort, and energy and heartache before actually building out a product that nobody wants to buy. I don't have a lot of technology or web experience. Can I implement this with basic skill level? The answer is yes. I'm terrible at building websites. With the tools that are available today, all the tools that we talked about and many more, setting up simple web pages is easier than it ever has been. Let's see. Can you? Okay. I have a website with 1,200 emails collected on various political and activist topics, like changing the world for better. Do you think this might be a good market to be in? Can I try to sell my list eco products, for example? This is totally ripe for the survey funnel formula will give you the answer to that question very quickly. When you see the process, that's exactly what it's about. Survey that list of people. You'll be able to determine what sort of product demand exists and whether or not there's any demand, and you'll determine whether or not the eco products are a good fit or not. One of the things that I tell people is that even with my experience, I always try to enter a new market with a naive mind. The mistakes that I've made have been when I've presumed that I know the answer and I've deviated from the process. And that's the key here, is you go in, follow the process, and just let the numbers speak for themselves, and not try to go in with any preconceived notions. And that's where the truth is. Would this work for blog about vegetarian choices in all types of restaurants? Absolutely, absolutely. Your subscribers. As a former vegan myself, you might be wondering. Your audience might be, which of the following? How would you describe your diet? Are you vegetarian? Are you lacto-ovo? Are you vegan? Are you paleo? What are you? Why are you looking for? What's your interest in vegetarian options? Is it because of health reasons, religious reasons, like certain Indian religious groups that eat a strict vegetarian diet? The list goes on. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity. If we do the survey, do we have to have the answers as well? I'm not sure I understand the question. The initial deep dive survey is an open-ended survey, meaning you're asking a set of open-ended questions where you are not providing answers. It's all about getting that open-ended feedback, and there's a very specific analysis process that we follow as a starting point. If you have a team, what if you're alone right now? The business that I started, and I didn't tell this story because time is short, but the business that we started in the gardening space that we took from nothing to $24,000, just under $25,000 a month. I'll put it this way. We lived in Brownsville, Texas. My wife had a job as a museum curator, making $36,000 a year. I would drive my wife to work every single day. We had one car. I'd drive her to work, drop her off, come home in a $500 a month apartment. It was the cheapest apartment we could find that didn't have bars in the windows. We had no furniture. I had 2 lawn chairs that we got when we opened up our business bank account, a mattress on the floor, a $450 laptop that I bought from Best Buy. It was a Gateway laptop, and an internet connection. That was it. I was the guy. I did my own QuickBooks. I answered customer service. I created the ebooks. I wrote the ebooks. I designed the ebooks. I put together the simple little websites. I wrote the emails. Did it all myself with no help. And we took that business from nothing to $25,000 a month using the exact process that you're about to get access to. So if I had to go, if you're by yourself, I totally appreciate where you are. I've been there, and this is definitely something. So listen, I have to run. It is at the top of the hour. I have one of those clients who pays $5,000 a month for access to my time. I'm going to speak to that client right now. So I want to leave with one last thought before we wrap up, and that's this. Real quick, I want to fulfill my promise. If you wanted to get access to the free flowchart, go to surveyfunnelformula.com/free, FREE. You go to that link, click on it, you'll get to a simple little form asking you for your name and email, and we'll email you a copy of the high resolution version of that flowchart and get access to it right away. So lastly, before we run, my last parting words would be, listen, if you're just, I don't want you to have to decide whether or not this is right for you without at least checking it out. So my advice is, if you're interested, if you're just curious, you just want to see what this is all about, click on the link, go to that URL, surveyfunnelformula.com/Morrow, MORROW, grab yourself a copy. Go through the course, download everything to your hard drive, test it all out, follow through on the methods that you see taught. If you like the course, you like the results, you want to stick with it, keep it. If you decide, you check it out, it's not for you for any reason or no reason at all, just let us know. I mean, listen, I've been doing this for a long time. You can talk to John, you can talk to anybody who's been working with me. My end goal here is not to, to trick you out of $197. I have clients who pay me $250,000 a year plus. What's important to me is that we start a relationship. I want to start a relationship, and the best way I know how to do that is to just tremendously over-deliver out of the gate, give you a great experience so that you want to be a customer for life, and that someday you and I will be meeting together in person, working together in some way. I don't know what that's going to look like. This is the first step. So with that being said, John, I just want to say thanks so much for the opportunity to share this with you and your audience. And for everyone who spent the afternoon here with us, I just want to say thank you to you. I know how valuable your time is, and that you could be doing a million things right now. And I hope that I was able to fulfill on the promise of giving you information that you can immediately use in your business, a lot to think about, and some very clear next steps on if you want to take this to the next level on where to go. So John, thank you so much, my friend. And
thank you. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Thank you, Ryan.
Awesome.
And we'll let you get to your $5,000 call.
Take care.
All right, man. Take care.